The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Depending on where you're logging in from, that'll sound just about right for you. Don Cook, Chief Marketing Officer at Seven Signal. With me today is Mr. Chris Mitten. Good afternoon, or good morning, Chris.
Good morning. How is everybody today?
I think we're doing all right. As you can tell, my backdrop changed from last week. For those of you who have been coming week after week, I ventured into the office today in pursuit of quiet. And as I was just laughing with Chris in the waiting room, of course, there are landscapers outside. So hopefully that doesn't come through and these AirPod Pros end up working, but I'll try and keep the background noise to a minimum. So we're going to get going here in about 2 minutes. Love hearing from everybody where they're dialing in from today. So the headquarters for us is in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where I've dialed in from. It's about 10:58 here local time. And Chris Mitten, I think you're in Corpus Christi, Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
So I assume your weather's probably been a lot nicer than ours, but we're looking good today. Probably almost 60 degrees. Finally, some sunshine here in Cleveland. How about you?
Finally, no snow today for you guys, huh?
It's been a crazy spring, so
Oh
we'll
man.
see how that all shakes out.
Yeah, we're 85 and sunny, so sorry.
All right, fine. So for those of you dialing in from your home office or your work office, if you don't mind letting us know where you're logging in from, that'd be awesome. I got some coming through here already. Got Colorado. We've got Mexico, Germany. Awesome. Thanks, guys. UK, London. Thanks, Alex. I think last week we had a Thailand. I think that took the cake last week. So we'll see what comes in today and who's logging in the furthest away. It always gets me that with the time change and folks and their commitment to great Wi-Fi and logging in at really early hours and not waiting for the recording, which I really respect. We've got Lincoln, Nebraska with Don, the Netherlands with Rutgar. My desk from Eric. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. Florida with Sudanshana. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably didn't. Denmark, Vancouver with Stig and Oliver. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for logging in today and joining us from all over the world. You know, Wi-Fi has really become a staple and keeping our remote workforces connected now more than ever, with everyone working remotely and users and engineers not getting visibility into, not being able to have visibility into the Wi-Fi when employees are working remotely. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk about endpoints. Our topic today is understanding endpoint types and their impact on the Wi-Fi. So we're going to talk about the enterprise extended, not just working remotely, but we'll talk about that too, how to gain visibility into those devices, what it means, what their impact is on the Wi-Fi, and why you all should care. And I think it's relevant now more than ever before, like I mentioned. So just a couple of quick updates here before we get going. So we're not going to get into product tours and product demos and that sort of stuff today. We try not to do those on these weekly best practices webinars. Today will be no different. So if you do want product information, go to go.sevensignal.com/tour and we'll get you signed up. We will share a copy of today's webinars as we always do. We record these webinars and then we post them on YouTube. So when we do share those, it's simply from a YouTube site or our YouTube channel. So you can go directly there and get it about an hour after the webinar starts, or you can wait for our email. Either way works. So you'll have continued access to those. It's also worth mentioning that these webinars are approved by CWNP. So for those of you who are pursuing certifications, please reference these webinars. We can give you a certificate for joining. So for those of you who are interested, just all you need to do is email me and I'll send those to you. Or simply respond to one of the emails that you already get from me. We do have some special offers right now, and I mention these every week for the last couple weeks, and I'm going to keep those going since they're really well received. We've given away over 50,000 Mobileye licenses in just the last few months during this COVID crisis. So for those of you who are interested in getting a free copy of Mobileye for your organization to help give you insight into remote workers' devices or other endpoints we're going to talk about today, you can go to go.sevensignal.com/Mobileye, /50 for 50, which is the name of our offer. And then if you're a customer and you don't have Mobileye yet, you can go to /1000 for 60. So we are giving 1,000 Mobileye licenses away for our customers who are just using our Sapphire Eye. So with that said, just a little bit of background about Seven Signal. We started back in 2007 in Helsinki, Finland, moved to the United States about 2.5 years after in seek of funding and Wi-Fi talent. The Cleveland area is a significant hotbed for Wi-Fi talent, which we were able to leverage in our early years. Since then, we've grown significantly and now crunch over 1 billion data points on a daily basis, monitor over 5 million devices globally. So all kinds of different endpoints, from laptops to point of sale devices to Spectralink scanners to Zebra devices, Honeywell, and everything in between. Some creative things like robots and smart forklifts and that sort of stuff. We've got over 200 customers around the world, over 30 partners. I saw a lot of folks dialing in from international locations. We've got some great partners, a new partner in Mexico, with Sama Wi-Fi, NetPeppers in Germany, I saw on the line. We've got Open Reality in the UK, Comtech in Russia. So some great partners. And what they're delivering to you and the services and software is unique in this space. And it is so because we've got 14 patents. So what you see from Seven Signal, you're only going to see from us. We're GDPR compliant. So for our EU customers and prospects, we really do care about our customers' privacy, and it's evidenced in the certifications that we go after. So GDPR compliance was really important for us to get last year. So we continue to stay relevant on our privacy front. So in a nutshell, Seven Signal is here to enable the wireless world. And what we're doing is we're finding and fixing Wi-Fi issues for our customers. And since 2007, we created a completely outside-in enterprise framework that's AP and device agnostic. So whether you're looking at our sensors or possibly our Mobileye product that installs on the device, regardless of the device you have, regardless of the access points you have, our products will plug and play and monitor service level quality. We're completely modular, so depending on the needs that you have internally and the industry that you're in, because every use case is different, we can position solutions that are tailored specifically for you. All of our products are replete with reporting and analytics, as you would expect. So what we're looking for at the end of the day are what we call the top 7 Wi-Fi problems. And these problems present themselves differently. So most of us know them as, oh, I can't connect, or the connection's slow. Well, there's certainly a lot more to it, and we help our engineers get to the root cause of those issues. And ultimately, they're either congestion, coverage, co-channel radio interference, network services, roaming, adapters and driver combinations, or the wireless LAN configuration itself. Everything in the world of Wi-Fi bubbles up to one of these problems, and we measure those. And how we measure those is we're running active and passive tests on the network and on the devices for things like throughput, packet loss, latency, jitter, MOS score, delivering a full spectrum analysis, really looking for, again, those root cause issues of either interference or one of the other challenges that we have. Again, unique in this space. So I mentioned outside in, and that is our approach to the troubleshooting Wi-Fi networks. The legacy approach, if you're not a Seven Signal customer, you're relying on the legacy approach right now, which is really relying on your vendors for for detailed information about your network or about those devices and how they're performing. And that's great. And we're not here to replace those. We're here to complement those. And where we fit in is we give the diagnostics to those devices and that network that the other vendors cannot provide. And what they can't provide is the outside in visibility that we provide. We live, again, on the network's edge, on the endpoint. So we're able to measure that last hop between the access point and the device and the end user, giving that engineer exactly what they're looking for to get to root cause issues, above and beyond what the device manufacturer or the access point manufacturer is able to provide. And we have customers that have every device and every access point under the sun. So we've seen a lot of different things. So I mentioned we've got two modules. On the left, you'll see our Mobileye module. That is what we'll be talking a little bit more about today. Without going into too much product. But that is our software as a service device that lives, again, on software as a service application that lives on the device, any Windows, Mac, Android device, or now mini PC. So for those of you who have non-traditional operating systems, whether it's a robot or a forklift, or two of the examples I gave earlier in a hospital, those pumps and vents that have these light operating systems. We have many clients now who are using mini PCs to attach to those devices that roam and continue that normal journey. And those mini PCs are able to give you insight into coverage issues, co-channel and co-channel interference, noisy neighbors, that kind of stuff. So really, really interesting stuff, and a great way to go around those non-traditional operating systems. Also, Sapphire Eye is our perfect client or sensor that lives up in the rafters with the access points down on a desktop, installed on a wall, that really provides more around interference and network services. So two different solutions going after two different use cases, finding a lot of the similar high profile problems that you're all experiencing now. And Seven Signal is the only vendor in this industry to offer this complete suite. So with that said, would love to hand the controls over to Chris and talk a little bit today about endpoints.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
And you can see me okay?
Yes.
All right, let me just fix this up here a little bit. All right, fantastic. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Okay, my scale is off just a little bit, so let me get this going. There it is. All right, hi everybody. Chris Mitten, super excited to be with you guys here today. This is one that we've done before. I believe it's very pertinent, as Don had said today. Very excited to be talking about it. Very excited as well because I spent almost 3 years at Dell on the client side in my career, learning about clients. And as most engineers do, it's pretty segregated in the organization, where network engineers, desktop support, well, storage guys are their own planet, don't really see into everybody's day-to-day, but at the end of the day, they have to support all of it. And client, especially with Wi-Fi, is really important, and I'm really excited to be talking to you guys about this, and wanted just to jump right into it. So today's topics, we've mentioned quite a bit what we're going to go to. We're going to go past that. What I would like, if there's anything that that you guys take from this, are these two things. And besides that, I'm in desperate need of a haircut. And yeah, so I'm noticing that right off the bat. So starting to go a little stir crazy, and I hope everybody's healthy and doing well. But I definitely would like to get my haircut. And yeah, so two things. Client devices are made for different use cases, and we have some examples here at the bottom here. And client devices perform at different data rates. This is pretty much an understood thing, but it is actually lost a lot when we're talking about network design and network operations. As network engineers, a lot of us have started off in their career as a pure network engineer, and then went to their sweet spot, either being voluntold or moving into that direction. And so from the network perspective, like Neil Degrasse says, and of course you guys have heard this quote before, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And in a wired environment, from a network perspective, that's really how you fixed everything. You would just basically hammer it. And in the Wi-Fi world, especially now with AC, we're not going to get into AX, we're not going to get into Wi-Fi 6E. AC has been around for many years, dual band, and there's been a lot of things that you can do and clients can do in this standard. And this is pretty much the standard that we're used to. And fixing a problem from the network point of view with as a hammer isn't working with Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi just doesn't play that way. If I was artistic, I would say that the connection between Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi clients and APs is like a dance. But I'm not, I'm an engineer. It's more like just sheer chaos, controlled. And especially in an AC environment, just because something is set up for AC from the client's perspective and the AP can do it, there's many different sub features in them. I can get all to it, but that AP in your network has to be able to accommodate everybody. And what I wanted to show you guys is that in the client environment today, there are different devices made for different things. And they are coming into the network and they are being considered to be the same, and they are very much different. And what I have here is why some clients perform better than others. And I have an example of 3 IBM compatible devices over here to the left. And then I have the guys that have creeped in over the years, the iPhone, iPad, and Android tablets. And I actually even have a little bit of show and tell. In today's network, you have consumer grade devices being put onto your network, and you have, which is a high end or low end, and then you have high end or low end enterprise grade type devices going into your network. To your end user, it really looks the same, but from my experience working with vendors and my engineering experience, they couldn't be more different in the way that they are designed, the way that they are sourced, and the devices that have them. And the example I will show you, in a high-end consumer grade device, there is basically a $9 wireless NIC in here. And that's the actual vendor's cost from the manufacturer. In this one, there's a $19 difference in price with this wireless NIC. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but when you're looking at devices and everything else that is put into these type of clients that people use every day, that really starts to add up. So from an end user's point of view, it's pretty much all the same. From the Wi-Fi experience, they're very much different. And I wanted to show that here. So I have 3 devices. I have a high-end consumer grade device with the same price point. I have a low-end enterprise class device with a smaller price point. And then I have the very expensive high-end enterprise class device. And then of course I have, what executives and others do is they go and they add, what I call to tertiary or sometimes secondary devices into Wi-Fi. This example right here is a Samsung Android, and if you can see that, the data rate is lousy. Again, it's AC, but the data rate is lousy. Why? We'll get into that. My Apple devices seem to love to get on lower data rates and stay that way, so much as like my brand new iPhone over here. I spend 40% of my time at a very low data rate when I'm on Wi-Fi. So much so that I've moved my Apple iPhones to a completely different Wi-Fi network to stop interfering with others that are actually a little bit faster. So what do I mean by that? So in this example, we got 3 client devices, 3 different type of wireless NICs, 3 experiences in 1 network. So the consumer high-end class is this network interface card right here. Right off the bat, consumer electronics. This device, which costs twice as much as my low-end business class device, performs almost 3 times as worse from a Wi-Fi and network connectivity as my low-end business class device. And you can see some of the rates here between the three. From a network point of view, they all pretty much look the same. Is it dual band? Yes. Does it do AC? Yes. When we get into the specifics of MIMO, as you guys know, by 1x1 and 2x2 and the different generations of the network interface card, you start to see significant differences in performance on the network and actually performance on the devices as well. Now, when I talk about consumer brand devices, a consumer brand device like this one right here, even a high end, Don, any guesses what the lifespan is, what this is supposed to be for? Like when you're supposed to get another one?
2 years.
8 months. So consumer grade devices, that the ones you buy at Best Buy, you know, again, not knocking them, great products. They are consumer. They are sourced by basically whoever has the lowest price in internals. There is no driver train path that really needs to be followed. There is no semblance of supply chain, any of this with consumer grade. So it is usually whoever, when these guys are sourced together, it's whoever has this wireless NIC that's been spec'd, whoever has basically the lowest price, they're the ones that get put into the environment. And then after a few months, there usually aren't any driver update changes to this at all. And again, to the two things I want to talk to you guys is that this makes a huge difference in performance and Wi-Fi network connectivity, depending on the consumer class and then the enterprise class. So for a device like this device actually has to go through a software certification process to make sure that all of the internals, we'll just call it that way, actually are certified to run certain applications on them. So this has a long life cycle. This has a very detailed network interface card sourcing program and driver program. But still, I'm going to show you, even with this, there can be some issues. So here again are these three examples of the adapter and driver combination. And what I have here are the devices I'd mentioned. I've got my high-end consumer grade device with some roaming issues. I've got a precision device, which is this guy, with this version of a driver with no roaming issues. And then I've got the same NIC with a different driver version with roaming issues. So what happened? What was the difference here between these two driver trains on this high-end device? Now, I had mentioned again, this slide again is there for an example, is that devices, when they're shipped out, when they're produced consumer grade, you might not get a driver update. You might be able to find who the driver is or the company is and go to their manufacturing site and update that. And I want to show you how dangerous that is here in a second and how much this driver actually changes and can just wreak wonderful things or terrible things on a Wi-Fi network. And then again, with a fully developed enterprise class network train, you can still come into issues. So what happened with this precision or this high-end device when this driver was upgraded? And that's what happened. So in April of 16, I got a driver update. Like most enterprise class devices, I didn't do anything as an end user. I was just working and all of a sudden it was pushed and there it was just on my device. I wasn't even aware of it. Wasn't even aware that, you know, it had been done. And then I noticed that this was on April 16th. And again, ever since then, I haven't had any wireless roaming issues on this device since. So that begs the question, why? Why was even a driver sent? And was that, okay, so maybe there was roaming issues with this type of set, and that's why a driver train was pushed out and was sent out to the vendors tools, and the vendors tools then did their testing and then sent it out and work was about roaming. Well, I dug into it and it had nothing to do with roaming whatsoever. So what this driver version was to fix an Intel vulnerability, which I have right here. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but my original driver that it came with it was from 2019. This exploit was published 1st of the year, so let's say 12/20, you'll notice that I didn't get the driver updated until April, 4 months, right? So there is a long line of process, even in the enterprise class devices, that will go and follow this change of control of testing, of knowing about vulnerabilities or updates, and then confirmed and then pushed to you as a consumer. From one device, that's not a big deal. For a ton of devices, say if you have 10,000, 5,000 client devices and you do a rollout or a refresh of say 10% every 6 months, you start to see that problem manifest everywhere in your environment. And it is very difficult, again, from the network perspective, to actually say, hey, why is that? Why are these people calling with such random issues of roaming, of calls? Well, they wouldn't even say roaming. They say my Skype calls being dropped. And then someone sitting right next to them is having a completely different experience. And that is the point of the session here today, is for you guys to get really involved and really start to think that with AC, the game has really changed in the access layer environment. And as a network engineer, I hear a lot of people like, I just work with BG route reflectors all day. I did too. I do OSPF. I'm not interested in down to that level. Wi-Fi desktop guys, it is one of these things with AC, with over these last 5 years, that now is super important. And your companies and your employees and your customers will have so much better of a Wi-Fi experience if you start looking at the Wi-Fi client and its network interface card as its next generation, as it's going to be doing completely different experiences, and getting in front of it and being a part of that selection process. And what I have here is a reference that I'll have in the slides of a picture that was taken. That's obviously a US currency dime, really tiny. That little guy right next to it is this Wi-Fi network interface. So it is absolutely small, and such a little thing can do so much for such a large network, especially when it's compounded. And I just wanted to mention, well, it's just good to note, because a lot of us wireless engineers, we're always in the controller, we're always in the cloud, and we're not thinking about the drivetrain and all the different things that a network interface driver can actually do. No matter what you do to your network on top, the device is going to be like, it's like herding cats. I'm going to do whatever I'm programmed to. So you'll notice that just there are simple features here with selection of the band that you want to go to, the roaming aggressiveness, the power settings, lots of features that these NICs can be programmed to. And if you guys are into GPO and push things out, sometimes you have the ability to make these changes, and you have the ability to have your clients or your customers or your end users, how you refer to them, not be able to access this and start playing around. If somebody does have the ability to start playing around, they say, you know what, I'm just going to be on this. What can you do from a network perspective to fix that issue, especially in a work from home environment? Nothing, right? You don't have any visibility of this. So it is very important going forward to be a part of that process, right? So the main takeaways from these sessions here is that, again, client devices are made for different use cases. Right, so we have the consumer grade, and we have enterprise or business class, and then these devices perform, especially from the Wi-Fi perspective on AC, at different data rates, and that access point or the network has to actually support all these different types of limitations or non-limitations of different Wi-Fi clients on that network. And my reason for this session is that for you guys is to get in front of it, and is to plan and operate accordingly and set expectations. When somebody comes up to you, especially the executive class, and says, I want my new iPad on the Wi-Fi, here it is. Sometimes it's worth the thought of saying, okay, what does this do the over impact of my network? What is this going to connect to? Is it going to interfere with anything else based on data rates? If you are a part of a rollout of client devices, or if you're hearing about it, it's best to stick your head in and say, hey, can I be a part of that as a wireless engineer or as a network person? Can I work with my support team because I'm very interested in what type of clients we're going to be rolling out to our customers that are going to be primarily on Wi-Fi going forward, especially working from home. And what kind of network interface connects cards and classes that we're going to get, and prepare your networks accordingly for that. You cover those three options, and we found with our customers that you really start seeing those Wi-Fi issues dissipate, and the Wi-Fi experience actually performing a lot better, and a lot less headaches, right? So Don, that's all I wanted to cover. I wanted to give some time if there was any Q&A.
Yeah, that makes sense. And maybe while the folks are queuing up their questions, and I've already seen a handful come through, I know that you had shown some of, and I'll pull them up here, some of these screenshots, and you're using Mobileye here. I wanted to make sure that was clear to the audience, but maybe you could spend a few minutes talking through this view and the other two, especially that starburst that you showed, and how you're doing those reports in Mobileye, and perhaps how folks can use these tools to be proactive and become part of the device strategy. Because I know we have a lot of wireless engineers, network engineers, IT generalists on the line, and not necessarily folks on the device side. And maybe talk a little bit about how we bridge that gap.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And I am using our product Mobileye, and Mobileye is installed on my client devices. So what we're seeing for the first time is the Wi-Fi from the point of view of the actual client, not from the network, not from the vendor management of that device saying this is what your Wi-Fi looks like. This is actually from the client. It's a software that's installed on the machine. It's looking at the operating system, the network interface, the NIC, also with all of our patents. It's reading the beacon frames. It's also gathering all of that and crowdsourcing it up to the environment. And what we're pulling from this is really specific information about the Wi-Fi. And so with this software, I'm able to easily see what the driver train version is of the different devices on my network. And what we've done as Seven Signal is that we've sourced those together. So now we can see that when, say, the same devices like these on this driver train are having roaming issues, we actually can show that and show the difference between when it wasn't. And it's very powerful because, as you can see, just a unsolicited network driver update fixed my roaming issue that I wasn't even aware of. And that's the good example. The bad example is when the opposite happens.
Right.
When you roll something out and all of a sudden you have problems. And as you guys know, especially in enterprise, and when I say enterprise, I say anything that's not us, a company. When a company pushes out, say, 500 devices, it might be at 4 different locations. It might be at 200 different locations that you now have to monitor. And then let's say only 20 of them got upgraded, or 20 of them had something change. It's going to look from your point of view, or from a point of view of the network looking down, it's going to look like just a blip. You're going to be like, oh, that Skype call that got dropped at location A, that was just because who knows, right? And your end user doesn't want to hear that. And you don't want to tell somebody that. It's like, I'm not really sure, because we're Boolean people. We want to be, as engineers, we're going to say, this happened because of this, because of this, because of this, and I did this, and it'll never happen again. Having these crowdsourced from the different devices and going up and correlating the issues, that's what Mobileye is doing here. And that's how I was able to see, that the different versions are actually, having different types of issues on the exact same network, and sometimes on the same device. Did I answer that question okay, Don?
Yeah, you did. And so we've seen this a lot where we get some finger pointing back and forth, especially when you first start to roll out Mobileye internally, and sometimes there's hurt feelings, right? I mean, you get the device folks that say, well, it's not the device, I made a good decision. And you get the Wi-Fi guys and girls saying, well, it's not the network because it was designed properly. So this type of tool gets everyone on the same page, and just fixes problems. We don't worry about the finger pointing. It just, you have the data to get to the root cause of these issues, which is really great to be a part of those kinds of conversations. And I know, Chris, as a sales engineer, you're a part of a lot of those.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a great visualizer of just showing, and this is a little bit of a paradigm shift. Even though we've been doing Wi-Fi for years, with the everything that's come this year, and as business has been progressing and how clients have come onto the device, it's really hard to think of the Wi-Fi clients being so different from each other and performing so different from each other. And that really is the case, right? And so there needs to be a paradigm shift of thinking of starting to look at Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi connections as basically by the device train. When I say device train, I mean by the make, model, operating system, network interface, and the driver version that's being set up.
Right. And it's interesting, the conversations that we're having. A lot of what endpoint monitoring does now is around the application performance, and they're losing sight of the network, and the fact that, hey, all the most powerful devices and applications on the market all depend on Wi-Fi and that stable connection. So folks are learning more and more that that the connectivity has a lot to do with the application and device performance. So it's very, very interesting stuff. So let's get to the questions here. I'm going to start with Riza here. Has a question. What's your suggestion for BYOD drivers updates? Sometimes you don't have that control. Good point.
Absolutely. A great blanket for that that I've used to actually learn this from my Accenture days, and I actually saw some of my Accenture alumni, I think, on the call too. So I just want to give a shout out to those guys. Is that you need to set expectations for BYOD, and you need to have a document, not so much maybe signed by that person, but you need to say, hey, this is your device. And there are certain things that's out of the corporate governance that we can control. It's actually a luxury, right? It's a luxury to bring your own device and use your own device for work. I know that might be a little dated, but it really is to be able to source your own device, and with that comes some caveats. And the best case scenario, again, with that document or with that understanding, is saying we're going to do our best to make sure that you're up and running, but please be sure that or at least understanding that it might not work as good as our corporate environment. And then sometimes those devices actually will for a while work better than sometimes corporate devices for a time. Now, updating drivers on that really gets into a really interesting question, not from a technical perspective. From a technical perspective, you can use tools. You can add those devices on your domain if possible and push out your tools on those. You can set up a different profile for BYOD that follow a different train. If you have the money, you can maybe get in front of it and suggest different devices that you are. I see this a lot in universities. They say this device is what we say should be your BYOD device. And if you buy this certain make and model, we will support it fully, right? And then they actually have money to follow the train of the releases, actually do testing in the lab environments to make sure everything's working with their applications. Or there is the other way to do it, is saying, hey, you get to hop onto the guest network and the buyer beware. I would suggest how much time and effort for both parties to manage a BYOD situation should be examined first before even talking about what you're going to do. Because sometimes if you just tell the customer, or somebody brings a BYOD and says, hey, this device, it's going to be running at a certain if you get it, you get it, awesome, we'll do our best, they'll be okay with that, and they'll just understand it. If not, then if it's like a mission critical, then there needs to be a little bit of conversations with IT management and executives, say, hey, if we're going to take on BYOD and we're going to tell our customers that they can bring these devices on, and we want to have the same experience as they have as a corporate environment, then how much time and effort and how much money is this actually going to take to build this environment? just for our customers, our end users, our employees to bring devices into the office compared to the other things that we're doing in business. Because I'm sure for every IT person that's on this call, there's probably, I would say, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 emails that just filled the collective buckets of this time. So there's many tasks for all of our IT support guys to do, and usually having more operational type things, or more projects added takes away from some of the bigger goals of the day to day. So I would focus on that part first, and then move to the technical review of how you're going to implement that.
Thanks, Chris. Question here from Eric. How does your software affect the performance of the device?
Oh, nice. So we're talking about Mobileye, right? So
Yeah.
So it's about 110 meg, I think, plus or minus, of a footprint, and then utilization 2 to 3% on average. We do have some active tests on there, so they're configurable. So if you ping basically every endpoint every minute, that'll definitely add network resources, but you can monitor that. So we do a standard one ping every 10 minutes or so. So it's very nominal on the processes. So
Yeah. Thanks, and thanks for the question, Eric. Christian, how is the easiest way to check the adapter and driver are the best performers before you buy it? Of course, Christian must not be a customer. Certainly, that's something we can help with before you launch out fully. But are there any tools on the market that or resources that folks can check to see best performing adapters and drivers?
That is a great question, and I don't want to hurt anybody that's in marketing's feeling about not just reading all the marketing for everything. Sorry, I had to do it, but
Yeah, I understand.
And I don't, also, for the same thing, you don't want to go to all the engineers and get into a dissertation on something that kind of goes down a wormhole that gets you off topic of what the device is. My suggestion is that everybody, in my 23 years of experience, and I'm still learning every day, is that everybody has, a network. Everybody has an idea of what that network's supposed to do, but the goal of everybody's corporate design and telecommunications design is completely different, and it's been built for different reasons. And the only thing that really is going to work for you and what's going to be best for you is what's going to be in your environment. So you can research, you can blog, you can look at demos, but you really need to have one of those devices in your environment, in your client's hand, actually pushing traffic and actually doing a small pilot. I always say, if you can, 10%. If you can get in front of something and say, I just want to get 10% of whatever this, let's say this, we're thinking about buying 1,000 PCs or upgrading 10 locations. I just want one location where we're going to have a pilot, and the people that are aware, the end users, know that it's a pilot, and we're going to try these devices, and maybe just one of them, maybe two of them, and actually see how it actually performs with the applications that are running on your network. Because in my experience, there are applications that are very new and very old in different people's networks that behave completely different. And you really need to find what works for you. And the only way really to do that is to put that device into a pilot program.
Yep. Question here from Olivier, and if memory serves, Vancouver, British Columbia. He's usually the first to respond when I ask where folks are dialing in from, although he wasn't today, so he's going to have to work on his timing there. Question, does 7Signal have a database that you can make available that rates NIC and driver performances or identifies known problematic versions? So, and I love this question because the short answer is yes. We have that database, and we've been discussing internally the best way to share that with the industry via white paper or alike. And we haven't decided yet. So I'd be on the lookout for that. It's probably going to be something that we can deliver. Maybe that's for a future webinar with Keith Parsons. We talk about state of NICS and driver performance, and talk about the best performing combinations. But wonderful question. We haven't decided how to share it. Yes, we do have that database, and our customers have that database internally as well. So they certainly have insight into their universe, their ecosystems. So we've got 3-4 more minutes here. I'll try and get to the rest of these questions as quickly as I can. A question from Frank here. So we have to determine what type of client device the user has before we update the driver, ? Just having different models of laptops is the same as NIC, or does that mean that all should be running the same version of driver?
Great question. I'm glad you brought that up. Favorite responses depends. If it's possible, there should be a standard. If all things are equal and we're in a vacuum, something that's a driver trained combination that's been tested out in your environment, that's been given the thumbs up approval from not only the end users, the device actually works as it should, and the developers, if you have an in-house dev team that has certain applications that it runs like, and that your team who manages and operates it can manage it smoothly and operate it, there should be a train that you guys say, these are what we want in the environment. In reality, that is very difficult. You can't just take everybody's devices and just start all over. There's going to be old, there's going to be new. The best way to do it is to add that into a refresh cycle and to start that process. So when a certain location is being refreshed and it's Wi-Fi, there needs to be some thoughts about what those devices are going to be. And to get in front of it, you need to start looking at those client devices coming down the line and getting your hands on them. And vendors like HP, Dell, Lenovo, they will seed you devices. They will let you demo devices. Believe me, they definitely will, and let you put your image on them and run them. You have to have the operating system, network interface, and whatever driver it came with, which is usually very first thing it is it's outdated. You can't get in front of that. You have to get the device first, and then make a note of what it is, run it through your paces, and then start to find if that driver is actually going to perform as you would expect, or if it's actually causing issues. If you can get in front of that and add that to your refresh cycle, your client refresh cycle, it won't pay off at the beginning, but within about 8 months or so, you'll start to see a lot of your devices will start to have that similar path, and you'll be in front of it going forward. And then you'll also be in front of the vendor as the vendor says, hey, we need to do some releases like I showed earlier. You can start to see that. And then again, if you have the ability to have an environment to actually put your SCCM server into a test lab and actually run that through dev environment. But a lot of the time, again, Mobileye is really easy for this because you can just run a report to say who has what NIC version driver and have a look real quickly to see who's having issues, who's not, and watch it for 90 days. But that is the best that I know of to get in front of it. The quick fix is to do an audit, but you will probably never have, well, I'm not saying you personally, but it's very difficult to have somebody on one train. Most companies usually have about 5 or 6 different models of laptops that people get to choose from, right? And devices, because there's different needs and different type specs for different types of end users, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. So we've got time for one more question, and I got a funny observation from the group. Yes, that is true that the people on our couch in this picture are not social distancing. Thanks for noticing. It's very funny. So we'll have to get this. We'll have to get this image updated. So another question here from Shergil. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Hi guys, great presentation. How does Mobileye work with Prime and WLC data?
Ooh, great question. So, Prime is definitely in the network and in the vendor's purview. Mobileye, like all 7 Signal products, is vendor agnostic, and then Mobileye is up and running on the actual client. Mobileye shows what the Wi-Fi client experience is and actually the decision it makes, not necessarily what you've designed your network to do, but actually real data of what the client is doing in your Wi-Fi network. Unless you can simulate that traffic, and some do, and we do with our Sapphire Eye, still not the same as actually seeing what the client is actually doing. In Wi-Fi or in the client Wi-Fi space and the access layer, again, we go back to that roaming issue of that no matter really how as hard as you set something, if the network interface and the operating system and the drivetrain make a decision to not roam, they're just not going to do it. Right? I mean, you can change all sorts of stuff, but they're going to be like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm fine here. I'm sticking here. And that's very difficult to see from the top down view. But from having it on the client, that's the big difference between the two, is that you see the Wi-Fi experience actually from the client's point of view and the client's operating system and NIC actually making decisions based on what that network is actually pushing through radio waves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really powerful to see it both of them work. They complement each other very, very well.
Thanks, Chris. And we're coming up on time. Actually, we're a little bit over time, so we're going to end the Q&A session there. If we didn't get to your question, we will get to you to your question via email today. No problem. So thank you very much for joining us today. And if you'd like to learn more about Mobileye, you can go to go.7signal.com/tour. And we actually give both Mobileye and Sapphire Eye product tours every Friday at noon. So we can get you signed up there. Thank you very much for joining us today and every week. We really appreciate your time on these Wednesday best practices webinars. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.